Alright, welcome to our little in-class presentation on Intro to Weimar Germany. We've already discussed the fact that the W is usually a V when speaking about it. So two little slides that you are going to look at for Weimar Germany. Let's have a look at the first one. Alright, so I want you to write this down. Alright, it's a democratic constitution of government, was created in Germany because the Kaiser abdicated. So he gives up all power. He says, fine, you don't want me, you're probably going to kill me if I stay as king, I'm going to go to another country. So he goes to Holland, and he enjoys a holiday for the rest of his life, as just, a royal with a couple of estates and dogs and hunting and stuff like that. So they set up the Weimar Constitution. It's a democratic country, and it's called Weimar Germany. So it existed from 1919 to 1933 or 34, depending on your interpretation. What that is meaning is that Hitler took over as Chancellor in 33 as President. 32 I think he took over as Chancellor. In 33, President Hindenburg passed away, and quite a few laws were passed and used by Hitler. So people say, well, it was actually Nazi Germany, it was the totalitarian state in 34. Others say no, it was still technically Weimar Germany until he did a couple of psycho things later on in 34. That's why it's open to interpretation. Right, theoretically, it's one of the most democratically advanced constitutions ever created. Okay, it's quite progressive. Had major flaws, which our illustrious group at the back has talked about, mainly Article 48, mainly proportional voting. So it's a very unstable constitution. And eventually these flaws are exploited by Hitler to basically legally have a coup. Legally take over and make the country a dictatorship. So the reason why proportional voting was such a problem was so many different little parties could get members of the Reichstag. So the Reichstag's got 500 odd people in it. If you got 30% of the vote, you got 30% of the seats. But that's not enough of a majority. You need 50%, and no party's going to get 50%. So you might have a big party get 30, another party get 15 or 18, another party get 12, another party get 8, another party get 6, and then 15 other parties sharing the last 20%. All right, and you need to form some kind of coalition in order to rule. So the 30% is completely opposed to the 15% or the 18%, so it's got to join up with a 12% party and a 6 and a 4 and a 2 party to finally get to 50%. Now, if they have a disagreement, what's going to happen? They're going to withdraw their support from the coalition. You no longer have the majority to rule. You have to have another election. You have another election. What happens this time? The big party gets 32%, the other party gets 22%, who are opposed to each other, and the same thing happens again. And again. Even the Nazis, when they controlled the whole thing, when they had state support, when they intimidated people, even they couldn't get any more than about 40-odd%. Alright, so it really was a problematic way of doing it. So, 3 major periods, 19 to 23, huge upheaval. Remember, you've got a country that's been at war for 4 years, you've got a country full of angry young men with guns, who are disillusioned, who have come back to a country in crisis. The governing authority doesn't have the much military support to back it up. The Treaty of Versailles is hated, but the Treaty of Versailles also stopped there being that many, that bigger military. So the military is kind of stepping aside and just letting stuff happen. And you've got uprising, you've got putsches, okay? Hitler has a famous beer hall putsch in 1923. There's the Cat Putsch, where a right-wing guy takes over the country. Okay, so you've got this period of a whole heap of instability. There's uprisings, there's revolts in the streets, there's gunfights, there's general strikes, and the workers are going nuts at each other. Okay, it's a whole heap of instability. After that, we have 24 to 29. That's as it says, a period of relative stability. The guy's name that's in charge, his name is Gustav Stresemann. So it's called the Stresemann era. And basically what happened here is they were able to stabilise the economy, and a lot of the politics was stabilised. There was still a fair amount of kind of elections and that kind of thing going on, but they were able to secure loans from overseas to stabilize the economy, to borrow money. So this period is quite a stable, very progressive. A lot of art flourished during this period, 1924 to 29, and it ended in 1929 in October. So Germany's going great guns during this period here, the 1924 to 29, but there are some underlying problems. Stresemann, he's signed a couple of treaties with other countries to try and alleviate the problems of how they're going to pay back all their debt, and he's made a whole lot of short-term loans. The big problem is they've used short-term loans to fund long-term projects. Okay, short-term loans, we'll have a loan for 6 months, and that will help us build a highway, for example. Now, a highway is a good thing to build, but it's a long-term project. It takes a while to build, and the productivity and the other things that you're going to get as a benefit from that don't happen for a while. And so, what if something happens and all these short-term loans, which you can just keep saying, no, we need an extension on that, we need an extension on that, we need an extension on that. What if something happens, say in 1929, and all of the short-term loans are asked back? That's what happens. So the Great Depression occurs, end of October 1929, the New York Stock Exchange crashes, and all of a sudden, all loans, international loans, are called back. Germany can't pay them. Germany's in a lot of trouble. Germany really is, as nations go, one of the, if not the worst affected country by the Great Depression. Eventually looking at unemployment of 34%. So you're looking at a third of all workers unemployed. So this is really a huge period of challenge, and the Constitution just can't stick with it. They're struggling. And so you get Mr. Brüning, who's the Chancellor at the time. He starts fudging it. He starts using Article 48, which the girls talked about, to pass things that the government doesn't agree with, that the Reichstag doesn't agree with, and this period is really a period of collapse. Okay? You'll note, we haven't even talked about Nazism yet. Okay? What we'll do is we'll look at Weimar separately, as I say here, all right, separate to the rise of Hitler, and then we'll look at the rise of Nazism, and you just got to remember that those things are happening at the same time. All right? We'll be looking at those things that I reminded you of: political, economic, social, and cultural and foreign policy aspects of this period. Okay? So what was happening politically, what was happening economically, socially. So, for example, this period here is a very progressive social period. Okay, a lot of cultural things were happening there, etc., etc. Foreign policy was quite different, say, here to here. All right, so we'll look at those things, and hopefully you'll gain a lot by looking at Weimar Germany and why it failed.